This is why you walk out of interviews feeling confident and still get rejected. It's not your experience, it's not your answers, it's three things almost nobody is taught, but they're what actually decide if you get the offer. So in this video, I'm gonna break down the exact three things that separate average candidates from the ones who consistently get hired. We'll start with number three, but make sure you stay for number one, because number one is the most important and most overlooked part of interviewing, and almost nobody does it. But once you understand it, you start realizing interviews aren't just about giving good answers, they're about shaping how the interviewer sees you before the interview even really starts. But let's start with number three, which is lead the conversation, don't just answer questions. Most people think interviews are about answering questions well. They're not. This is where things start to shift. Most people hear a question and go straight into answering. Top candidates do something different. They pause, understand what's really being asked, and then guide the conversation from there. So here's what this looks like. The old way, this is what most people do. You hear a question and you immediately go into answer mode, trying to say the right thing, sound polished, prove yourself, which puts you in reactive mode. You're guessing what they want, you're over-explaining, and you're hoping something lands. Here's what top candidates do differently. They don't rush, they slow the moment down and take control of it. Because leadership in an interview isn't about talking more. It's about directing the conversation and creating clarity. Here's why this works. When you react quickly, you stay in evaluation mode. They're judging your answers and evaluating you. But when you pause and guide, something changes. You signal presence, control, strategic thinking. Now you don't feel like a candidate, you feel like you're like someone already operating in the role. So let's talk about the framework that I call the AAA method. And here's how to do this in real time. Before answering, you first acknowledge. Show them you understand the question before you respond. For example, so you're looking to understand how I approach leading change initiatives, correct? Then you go into number two, which is associate. Acknowledge the value of the question so it feels like a thoughtful, important conversation, not an interrogation. You're signaling, that's a smart question, which builds rapport and positions you as a thoughtful peer, not just a candidate. Here's another example of how to do this one. That's a really thoughtful question, especially given how much transformation is happening right now. Okay, number three is you ask. You clarify what matters most so you can tailor your answer to what they actually care about. And as an example, would it be helpful to focus more on a team alignment, execution, or outcomes? And then deliver an answer that actually lands. This does three things. It buys you time to formulate a thoughtful answer, helps everyone, yourself and the interviewer, get clarity on what they're actually or what they're really asking. And third, it demonstrates your leadership abilities in the conversation. You don't stand out by having the fastest answer. You stand out by asking the question. That makes your answer land. So I've worked with a lot of professionals who are highly capable, but kept getting passed over. They'd walk out thinking they did well, but then they were still being evaluated the entire time. And once they made this shift from reacting to leading, everything changed. Now this is powerful, but even if you guide the conversation well, it won't matter if they can't clearly see you in the role, which brings me to number two. But let's take a quick pause for a second. If you're watching this and realizing you've been guessing your way through interviews, I put together a full interview toolkit with videos and worksheets walking you through the exact frameworks, scripts, and psychology behind all this. If you want it, just comment yes below and I'll send you access. Just drop yes right below there and I'll make sure you get it today. Okay, so let's get on with number two. Get them to see you in the role before you're hired. Most candidates try to prove they've done the job before. Top candidates do something very different. They make you feel like they're already doing the job. So most interviewers' answers live in the past, such as, here's what I did, here's my experience, which keeps the interviewer in evaluation mode. They're comparing you, stack ranking you, trying to figure out where you fit. The goal isn't to explain your past, it's to get them to picture you inside their future. And here's why this matters. Hiring decisions aren't made logically, they're made emotionally and then justified logically. Okay, let me repeat that. Hiring decisions aren't made logically, they're made emotionally and then justified logically. Think about that for a moment. So the moment they stop analyzing your past and start imagining you in the role, everything changes. Here's how you set this up. Before the interview really gets going, while it still feels conversational, you want to shift in what I call consultant mode by asking a few strategic questions that give you clarity on what actually matters. For example, question number one, just so I understand, what would success in this role look like over the first 6 to 12 months? Question number 2, what are some of the biggest challenges the team is dealing with right now? And question number 3, early on, what would you really want this person to focus on? Now you're not guessing, you have real clarity. And what this does is it helps you frame your answers moving forward because you can base them on what they told you. Because now that you understand what they actually care about, you don't just answer the question. You build your answer around their world so they can clearly see you in the role. And here's how that looks. Number 1, anchor to their world. Start with what they said so your answer feels directly relevant. Number 2, speak in the present/future tense. Talk like you're already in the role, not just describing the past. And number 3, support with experience. Briefly back it up with proof so it feels credible, not theoretical. And number 4, bring it back to them. Tie it back to their business so they can picture you doing it there. So let me show you what this actually sounds like in a real interview. Let's say the interviewing manager mentioned early on that one of the biggest challenges is getting better alignment across teams. Okay, so here's what I do. First, I anchor to their world. Number 1, remember that? And as example, based on what you mentioned earlier about communication gaps between departments, I had X, Y, and Z. And then number 2, or second, then I go into speaking in present and future tense, such as, one way I'd approach that early on is creating more consistent cross-functional touch points so teams stay aligned on priorities and expectations. Then number 3, I support it with experience, such as, in a previous role, we implemented a similar approach during a period of rapid growth, and it significantly reduced miscommunication and project delays. And 4th, now I bring it back to them, which is critical. Okay, so here's an example. So that's probably something I look at doing here as well to help create stronger alignment across the organization. Do you feel how different that sounds? I'm not just talking about my past anymore. I'm helping them picture me solving their problems. You're not just answering the question, you're showing them how you think inside their business, and that's critical. So now if you can do that, you're already ahead of most candidates. But there's one thing that matters even more, and it happens before the interview even really starts. So let's talk about number 1, which is prime their mind before you even start. This is the most overlooked part of interviewing, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. So the old way that most people do, or most people start off their interviews like this. Hey, thanks for having me. And then they jump into their background, and from that moment on, the interviewer decides how to evaluate you. And here's the shift. Top candidates flip this immediately. They ask one simple question. Before we begin, may I ask what stood out about my background that made you want to bring me in today? And here's why this works. And it's evidence-based psychology. And here's the interesting part. This isn't just a communication trick. It's rooted in what Robert Cialdini calls persuasion, which is a great book, by the way. I highly recommend it. And the idea is simple. Whatever someone says or focuses on first, their brain starts looking for evidence to stay consistent with it. And so here's what this does in the interview. When you ask that question, you're doing something very specific. You're getting the interviewer to define out loud what they already like about you. And once they do that, their brain naturally shifts into confirmation mode. Because the brain doesn't like contradiction. It prefers to stay consistent with what it already said or believes. So now, instead of neutrally evaluating you, it starts subconsciously asking, does everything else I'm hearing match what I already like about this person? This is happening automatically, subconsciously. They're not thinking about it. Their brain is just filtering everything through that lens. So instead of, let's see if this person is good enough, it becomes, I already see something strong here. Does the rest confirm it? And that's a completely different interview. And here's why this matters. Once they said what they like about you, they start viewing you through a more positive lens. Now their brain is naturally looking to confirm that initial impression, reinforce what they liked about you, and find alignment in everything you say, which means the entire interview is now being filtered through, this looks like a strong candidate. Let me validate that. And that dramatically increases the likelihood that you walk out with the offer. You're not changing who you are, you're shaping what they pay attention to first, and that changes how they interpret everything after. So let's zoom out. Most people think interviews are about saying the right things, having perfect answers, proving themselves, but that's not what's actually happening. What's actually happening is what I call the interview influence framework, and it has 3 parts. Number 3, how you handle the moment. Are you reacting or leading the conversation? Number two, how you position yourself in their future. Are you talking about your past or showing how you'd solve their problems? And number one, how you shape perception from the start. Are you letting them decide how to evaluate you or guiding what they focus on first? This is where everything shifts, because once you understand this, you stop trying to perform in interviews and you start guiding how they experience you. And when you do that, interviews stop feeling like pressure, guessing, hoping something lands, and start feeling like clarity, control, confidence, and real momentum. So if you've ever walked out of an interview thinking, that went well, and still didn't get the offer, now you know why. But knowing this isn't enough. You need to be able to actually apply this in the moment. That's exactly why I put together a free interview toolkit with the exact frameworks, scripts, and psychology behind this, plus accompanying videos. So if you want it, just comment yes below and I'll send you access. Again, just drop yes and I'll make sure you get it today. And if you want more personalized help, like breaking down your specific situation, I also do free one-on-one job search strategy and positioning calls. That link is in the description if you want to go deeper. Either way, I'm rooting for you. And make sure to save this video for your future reference.